while ago, I made a video titled A Few Deltarune Theories back when only chapters 1 and 2 were out. I was very excited when it was announced that we would be getting not 1 but 2 new chapters on the same day. Looking back on that previous video, it seems that a few of my predictions came true, and now we have a whole lot more lore to look at. So I thought it was time for something of a follow-up video, which will be full of spoilers. I was correct about the locations of 3 additional Dark Worlds: the living room of the Dreamer's house, the church, and the shelter on the edge of hometown. Unlike the ending of Chapter 2, the ending of Chapter 4 doesn't leave us with any hints about where the next chapter's Dark World will be. I'm relieved that we got Chapter 4 at the same time as Chapter 3, considering Chapter 3's cliffhanger ending. Chapters 3 and 4 give us some more detailed information about the nature of Dark Worlds. In Chapter 3, Rouse explains that Darkners don't just come from or represent, but are regular objects in the light world, and when touched by the stream of darkness from a dark fountain, they essentially come to life in the corresponding dark world. Rouse is about to reveal which object he is before Susie cuts him off, but one can easily speculate that the object is something belonging to Azrael. In Chapter 2, Rouse warned of a great disaster happening if too many dark fountains were open at the same time, and in Chapter 4 we see firsthand what exactly that is: the creation of a Titan, an extremely powerful being of darkness that exists only to destroy. Both new chapters also directly feature the mysterious Night, who can appear in the dark world and even partially manifest in the light world. In the light world, the Night is shown to be communicating with Chris through their cell phone, influencing them to do the Night's bidding. Whenever the Night wishes to influence Chris, it has them remove their soul, as we have seen in chapters 1 and 2. The Night is likely aware of the player and their control of Chris through their soul, and thus the Night knows that if they seek to influence Chris, they must do so independently of the player. The 3 beings shown to be capable of opening dark fountains thus far are Chris, Susie, and the Night. We also observe that different dark fountains can have different shades of darkness, which cause the environments and darkness within them to change. The Night seems to want enough fountains to be open so that a Titan can be released, though why exactly they want to unleash a being of such destructive force is unclear. The events of Chapter 4 prove that the light of a human soul can not only seal a dark fountain, but destroy a Titan from the inside out. Another possible reason that the Night makes Chris remove their soul is because the Night fears its power, and because they don't want Chris to use that power to foil their plans. We also learn more about the prophecy of which Susie, Chris, and Rouse are the heroes, including the fact that Rouse has been deliberately hiding the ending from Chris and Susie so as not to worry them. Although Rouse tries to stop her, Susie sees the ending for herself and becomes extremely distressed by it. However, she shatters the glass panel depicting the second to last line of the prophecy before we, the player, get to see it. Susie does not immediately tell Chris what she saw, but at the end of the chapter, back in the light world, she is heard speaking outside Chris's house with the text of what exactly she is saying not shown. This occurs at a time when Chris's soul is trapped in a cage, so although Chris himself hears what Susie says, the player does not. In order to speculate about what Susie read, we can examine the last line of the prophecy, which ends with the word saved. Since the rest of the prophecy is composed of rhyming couplets, the second to last line must end in a word that rhymes with saved. Here are all the words that rhyme with saved, with the ones most likely to cause Susie to react so negatively being enslaved and depraved. Of course, the context of the rest of the line could potentially make any of these sound bad. It's also possible that the word meant to rhyme with saved ends in a similar but not the exact same sound, with one example being betrayed. Given how much Susie values Chris and Rousey's friendship, the idea of them betraying her or her betraying them would cause her great anger and fear. The prophecy actually closely resembles the stories told of the angel when Chris and Susie attend church at the beginning of chapter 4. Those stories, like the prophecy, mention the Deltarune and heroes who manifest the angel's power in order to protect the world. Perhaps the angel is real and is to light what the Titans are to dark. Likewise, Chris, Susie, and Rousey may be to light what the night is to dark. The details of the story about the angel and its heroes are said to be lost to time, but obviously the story is very important to Lighteners as they still observe a religion based on it. The knight destroys multiple glass panels displaying parts of the prophecy, likely to prevent the heroes from learning how to defeat them. One particular thing that the knight does not want Chris to do is allow Susie to enter the shelter on the edge of town. When Chris finds the code to the shelter written on a slip of paper inside Des's guitar, the knight immediately stops them from reading it out so that they can report it back to Susie. Susie notices the slip of paper on her own, but is also unable to read it out, determining that she needs to get a hold of the guitar again. However, when Noelle and Des's mother Carol sees Susie with the guitar, she forbids Susie from ever coming into her house again. Knowing Susie though, she will probably find some way to sneak in, or Noelle will either let her in without her mother's knowledge, or just tell Susie what she wants to know. Since Des had the code to the shelter hidden inside her guitar, likely having secretly obtained it from her mother, she likely went inside on purpose, perhaps in order to simply explore the place out of curiosity, but now she is prevented from leaving. With the first 3 digits of the code being 122, the full code may very well be 1225 as a reference to Christmas, like just about everything else with the Holiday family. The Holiday family home has more mysteries yet to be explored, most notably Carol and Rudy's bedroom and the inaccessible door at the back of the kitchen, both of which likely contain more clues about the shelter and Des's disappearance. But why doesn't the knight want Susie to go into the shelter? The first 2 symbols on the shelter door most likely represent Des and Undine, Des already having been in there, and Undine shown to have been taken there at the end of chapter 3. The last symbol, however, is the Deltarune. It likely represents the prophecy involving Chris, Susie, and Rousey. The prophecy likely foretells the defeat of the knight by the heroes, making the knight believe that they cannot let all 3 of them into the shelter. Perhaps they want Chris in the shelter alone to do their bidding, without the other 2 who would look to free Chris from the knight's influence. The knight may have taken Des and Undine as its own version of the heroes of light and is trying to make Chris the 3rd one instead of the 3rd hero of light. It may even be part of the prophecy that Chris must choose between light and dark in this way. At the end of chapter 4, Chris has removed and caged their soul once again and appears to be attempting to sneak out the window. The last time they did so at the end of chapter 2, they slashed the tires on Toriel's car so that Susie would be forced to stay the night at the Dreamer's house. It's notable that the knight seemed to want to keep Chris and Susie together in that instance, even though they also don't want Susie to go into the shelter. The next chapter will most likely make it obvious what Chris has done this time and why. At least one future chapter will most likely involve the upcoming festival, where another dark fountain may appear. I still speculate that the interior of the shelter will be featured in the 7th and final chapter of the game. I know there's a lot more that I didn't discuss here, but these are all the things that caught my attention the most as I was playing through chapters 3 and 4. I'm glad that we only have to wait until next year for chapter 5, though of course I would be willing to wait any amount of time for such fantastic works of art as these first 4 chapters have been. What do you think? Do you agree with my speculations? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to give it a like if you found it interesting, and subscribe to the channel for more to come. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.